Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Look, I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. What just happened with the New York Mets is absolutely insane, and we need to talk about it right now because this changes everything. Steve Cohen just proved once again that when he wants something, he's going to get it, and what we're seeing unfold here could reshape the entire National League East. So buckle up because this is going to be wild. Let me set the stage for you. Last night felt like the end of the world for Mets fans. Kyle Tucker, the guy everyone wanted, the right-handed bat that would have been perfect for this lineup, signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, $60 million per year. The Dodgers basically said, "We're building a super team and there's nothing anyone can do about it." And honestly, for a moment there, it felt like the Mets offseason was completely derailed. Everything they had been building toward just evaporated. Steve Cohen swung big and missed, and that's not something we're used to seeing from him. But here's where it gets interesting. Steve Cohen is not the type of owner who just accepts defeat and moves on quietly. He's not wired that way. The man is a lifelong Mets fan with essentially unlimited resources. And when you combine those two things, you get exactly what happened next. The Mets weren't going to let their offseason end in disappointment. They weren't going to watch the Dodgers celebrate while they sat there empty-handed. So what did they do? They immediately pivoted and landed one of the best remaining players on the market. Bob Bichette is officially a New York Met. 3 years, $126 million. That's $42 million per year for a guy who absolutely deserves it. This wasn't some panic move or desperation signing. This was calculated, aggressive, and exactly what this team needed. Bichette gives the Mets elite contact hitting from the right side, something they've been desperately seeking all offseason. We're talking about a player who hit .311 last year with an .840 OPS. He gets on base, he makes contact at an elite level, and he rarely strikes out. That's the type of hitter you build around. Now let's talk about what this means for the Mets lineup and roster construction, because this is where things get really fascinating. Francisco Lindor is locked in at shortstop. Marcus Semien is your second baseman. That's not changing. So where does Bichette fit? Everything we're hearing suggests third base. Bichette is moving to third, which immediately raises questions about Brett Baty. Baty had a solid season last year, finally showing some of the potential that made him a top prospect. He put up a 3.1 WAR, hit .254, and looked like he was figuring things out at the major league level. But now his role becomes murky. The Mets clearly see Baty as a versatile piece who can play multiple positions, and I think we're going to see him in the outfield more than people expect. The Mets need outfield help. They didn't sign Cody Bellinger, who was the other big name out there. They chose Bichette instead, which tells you they have a plan for addressing the outfield through other means. Maybe that means Baty learns to play out there. Maybe it means they make a trade. Or maybe, and this is the really interesting possibility, Baty becomes a trade chip himself. Think about it. The Mets have been connected to Freddie Peralta for weeks now. The Milwaukee Brewers want young, controllable talent in return. Brett Baty fits that description perfectly. With Bichette now locked in at third base, the Mets have the depth to include Baty in a deal without creating a massive hole in their infield. If I'm Steve Cohen and David Stearns right now, I'm picking up the phone and seeing if we can get Peralta before the Yankees swoop in and outbid us. This rotation needs another arm, and Peralta would be perfect alongside Kodai Senga and whoever else they run out there. Let's also talk about the financial side of this, because it's actually pretty smart despite the massive dollar amount. Bichette has opt-outs after the first and second years. Now, do I think he's actually going to opt out of $42 million per year? Absolutely not. But having that flexibility is valuable. If something goes wrong, if he gets injured, if the fit isn't right, there's an escape hatch. And if everything goes great, which I think it will, the Mets have one of the best contact hitters in baseball locked up for 3 years at market value. This is what smart teams with money do. They identify elite talent and they pay for it. The other aspect of this that I absolutely love is the divisional implications. The Philadelphia Phillies wanted Bichette badly. They just lost Ranger Suarez to the Boston Red Sox. Their rotation is thinner, and they needed to add impact talent. The Mets basically said, not so fast. They swooped in, offered more money, and took him right out from under the Phillies. That's not just good roster building, that's strategic warfare within the division. You're making yourself better while simultaneously making your biggest rival worse. That's exactly what you should be doing if you have the resources. Now let's address the elephant in the room. The Dodgers are still the clear favorites. They just added Kyle Tucker to a lineup that already includes Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. They're arguably the most talented roster ever assembled. But here's the thing, you can't just give up because one team is stacked. You have to keep building, keep improving, keep pushing forward. The Mets could have packed it in after losing Tucker. They could have said, well, the Dodgers are too good, there's no point. But they didn't. They immediately responded with an aggressive move that makes them significantly better. Think about what this Mets lineup looks like now. You've got Francisco Lindor leading off or hitting second. You've got Marcus Semien, who bounced back nicely last year. You've got Bob Bichette providing elite contact and on-base ability. You've got Mark Bentos in there somewhere, probably DHing. And then you've got young talent like Francisco Alvarez behind the plate. This is a lineup that can score runs. This is a lineup that's going to be tough to pitch to. Add in a healthy rotation with Kodai Senga and potentially Freddie Peralta if they can swing that deal, and suddenly you're looking at a legitimate World Series contender. The other thing I keep coming back to is how quickly this happened. The Tucker news broke, and within hours the Mets had pivoted and closed a deal with Bichette. That tells you they had been preparing for multiple scenarios. They knew Tucker might not work out, so they had backup plans ready to go. That's competent front office work. That's David Stearns showing why he's one of the best executives in baseball. And that's Steve Cohen showing he's willing to spend whatever it takes to win. People are going to debate whether this was better than signing Cody Bellinger. Bellinger is an excellent defender with some pop in his bat, but his hitting has been wildly inconsistent. He was reportedly asking for 7 years at around $200 million, which feels like an overpay for a guy who's been up and down. Bichette is more consistent, provides better contact skills, and comes with less long-term risk because of those opt-outs. I think the Mets made the right choice here, even if it means they need to get creative with their outfield situation. So where do the Mets go from here? In my opinion, they absolutely need to pursue Freddie Peralta aggressively. The rotation needs another frontline arm, and Peralta fits perfectly. If that means including Brett Baty in the deal, so be it. You now have the depth to absorb that loss. Beyond that, they need to figure out the outfield. Carson Bench is probably coming up sooner rather than later, which is exciting. Maybe they take a flyer on another veteran outfielder in a shorter-term deal. But the core of this roster is now set, and it's really good. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Mets are suddenly World Series favorites. The Dodgers are still the Dodgers, and they're going to be incredibly difficult to beat. But what I will say is this. The Mets are significantly better today than they were yesterday. They didn't panic after losing Tucker. They executed their backup plan perfectly. They landed an elite player who fills a major need, and they sent a message to the rest of the National League that they're not going away quietly. Steve Cohen came into this offseason with a mission, build a championship roster. After getting Juan Soto'd by the Yankees and Tuckered by the Dodgers, it would have been easy to sulk and settle for mediocrity, but that's not what champions do. That's not what Steve Cohen does. So the Mets went out, spent the money, and got their guy. Bob Bichette is a Met, and this team is ready to compete. Now let's go get Freddie Peralta and really make some noise.